God, that was painful. Greetings, fellow internets. Handsome Hero Piscator here, and today I want to talk to you about the purple giraffe. Seriously, who comes up with these names? The purple giraffe is the second episode of the first season of How I Met Your Mother. To me, this episode personifies the main reasons why relationships fail. Really what it comes down to is expectations. Expectations is a loaded word in my life, and probably in the life of a lot of other people. But when I say expectations, what I really mean is our expectations of what the future will hold. Briefly, what our brains are really good at is figuring out patterns and using those patterns to predict what will happen in the future. And to me, one of the hardest things to predict is how to be happy. I mean, ultimately, as we go through life and as we have relationships, we want to be happy. We are desperately trying to be happy, and in a lot of ways, we don't know how to do that. And the same is true of Ted. I mean, he's desperately trying to get what he wants, but ultimately, he doesn't know how to be happy. So, how does one be happy? Ultimately, I've done a lot of research on the subject, and I agree with the notion that we really just need three things in order to be happy. Number one, we need to be accepting of other people. Number two, we need to surround ourselves with people who like and accept us. And number three, we have to take responsibility for our own actions. Now, in order to do these things, there is one other crucial step that without these three things would be impossible. And that's honesty. Unless you're honest with the people around you and yourself about who you are, it is impossible to do these three things. It's just impossible. People can't accept you if they can't see you for who you are. You can't accept others if you don't know how you really feel. And you can't take responsibility for your own actions unless you know what your motivations are and why you're doing them in the first place. So what the hell does this all have to do with How I Met Your Mother? Ted categorically does not know how to be honest. He doesn't. He's gotten it into his head that if he finds the one, then he's going to be happy, and everything else be damned. It doesn't matter that Robin has stated point blank she doesn't want the same things he wants. Ted is willing to bend over backwards to try to get what he wants, even while he is lying to himself about trying to get it. He creates this entire convoluted situation in order to prove just how much he doesn't need to get what he wants in order for him to get what he wants. Ultimately, to Ted, this is just a game. This is just an attempt to get what he thinks he wants out of the claw machine, the purple giraffe. He thinks that if he can try long enough, he'll finally get what he wants. And ultimately, this is something that I had a lot of trouble struggling with myself. And that is this transcendent idea that if I can just get what I want, if I can just get this one thing, if this one thing could actually be true, there'll be some magical effect and I will be happy. And ultimately, that's just a lie I was telling myself through years of unhappiness as a way to cope, as a way to just be okay with the fact that I was so miserable. And that's what Ted did, and that's what a lot of us do, is we make up lies about what we need in order to be happy when we're really just miserable. And that's why Ted is willing to actually be with Robin, despite the fact that point blank she's telling him, you can't get what you want with me. He thinks that he can, that somehow the world will change to suit him. And that doesn't happen. That's not really how the world works. Despite what we want, the world is what it is. And we can choose to change ourselves, but there's no way we can change the world from being anything other than what the world will be. And ultimately that comes out. He still wants Robin to be the one. And he doesn't care about anything else. That's what he wants. And to him that's really romantic, but ultimately that's just not really fair to Robin. She's a person who's entitled to her own desires, entitled to what she wants. So let's look at these three things again. Is Ted being accepting of those around him? Well, no. Robin has told him point blank, you can't have what you want here. Does he accept that? No. Has he found people who are willing to accept him? Well, yes and no. Barney is constantly trying to talk him into doing something different than what he wants to do, which is not technically very accepting. Though I do kind of like that despite the fact that Barney's being horribly misogynistic, he's technically correct. Ted should be moving on. And while Lily and Marshall are willing to support him, they're willing to support him despite the fact that he's being a jerk. And finally, is Ted taking responsibility for his own actions? No, he's not. He wants the world to be different. He wants people to change for his own benefit. He's not willing to change himself, and he doesn't care about what other people want. He's being incredibly selfish, and he's not taking responsibility for any of that. Now, I'm sure it really sounds like I don't like Ted, but ultimately, I do. He's just an unevolved character. He hasn't grown any. He's still selfish, and he doesn't know how to take responsibility for his actions, and that's fine. He's still a person. He's still worth accepting. But Ted's major issue is he doesn't know how to be honest with himself about his actions, about what he wants and why. And that's going to lead to his ultimate downfall. Until he can be honest with himself about who he is and what he wants and why, he will make the same mistakes over and over and over again. And he does. And I'll see you there.